Hey YouTube. Okay, video number 5 in the Big Steel Tent series, and we're starting to get really serious about power. I am at the point where I am comfortable overnight camping, and we're starting to look at power needs for long distance travel with either overnight stays or long stays after driving. In other words, drive several days and then arrive at a site where we're going to spend a couple of days, which is the exact situation we're going to be in when we go to Sean Dyer's squirrel camp. I'll be there for 4 days. So not only will I need my 1930s camping setup for 2 of those days, but for the other 3, I'm going to need the big steel tent to do all sorts of chores. Let's start looking at power. Well, hey there, YouTube. Yeah, a little bit of change of scenery here. We are not in the cabin. We are in the big steel tent. Little Bit's making herself comfortable on the bed. What we're doing here today is we're testing a system of powering the Starlink Mini while we're driving that I can leave plugged in when I'm making overland trips and staying in a location for the night. Okay, now you may remember the last video, the system I had come up with was to use this Anchor power bank. Okay, where this is connected to a 130 watt 132 watt inverter that is powered by the engine through the cigarette lighter plug. Okay, and that would keep this topped up while we're driving. And then a line would come out from here and into the Mini, which is in the roof. Okay, and my assumption there is that I would be able to pull into a place at night, turn off the car, and this would continue powering the Mini. And it did. It did do that. The problem was, at the 30 watt average output that this does to keep the Mini powered, this lasted 2.5 hours. Now, the problem with that was, you may recall, it took 2 hours to upload the video. And that's too close of a margin for me, for this to die in the middle of uploading a video. So I think I've worked out a solution to that, using the same source I would use when stationary for a long while, and setting up the Starlink outside the vehicle for optimal performance. That's the other thing you may recall from the last video. Having the Starlink in the roof doesn't give it optimal performance, which is probably why it took 2.5 hours. Also, just to let you know, you may see I'm here in the back seat. I have made a little bit of a change. We'll get a little bit of video of what I got going on here. But I've got a seat and a laptop table and a place to work if it's either cold and rainy, or if I'm just stopped at some place overnight and can't set up or don't want to set up my entire camping operation. We're doing a video this weekend, and we will be showing some of that as well. But let's get into the 2 tests I'm going to make. One turned out not to be successful. Let's take a look. Okay, so here's what we're testing today. This is my 5 or 6 year old EcoFlow river. It's the first river model that they came out with. I've got the extension battery on it. I believe it's got somewhere around 650 watt hours. I'll have to double check that. This cable here is a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug-in that goes up to the Starlink. It's threaded up this way and goes up to the Starlink, which is in the moonroof. Okay, this is a cable I bought, an aftermarket cable that is designed to deliver 12-volt power to the Starlink. This cable here goes to my 130-watt inverter, but it is plugged into the USB-A port on that inverter, so it is only delivering, I believe, about 12 volts of power. Now what I did is I got one of these little doolollies right here. Okay, what this is, it's got an Anderson connector on one side. Let's see if I can get that. It's got an Anderson connector that plugs into my solar input, and on this side it's got a USB-C plug. Okay, so that is plugged in to my solar input here. The theory being that the river will think it's getting power from a solar panel, because my 130-watt inverter is not powerful enough to charge this with the 130-watt input. Have I made any sense? Let's check it out and see if it works. We're going to turn this on. And right now, I don't know if you can see it, but we are at 77% power. Now, we're going to go in, we're going to turn on the engine, and we're going to come back here and see what kind of input we're getting. Okay, and we are getting 0 input, so my theory is not working. Come this way, come this way. Lay down. You're being sweet. Yeah, lay down. Lay down. Okay, we're going to talk to the people now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, there you go. That didn't work. Apparently, the 130-watt inverter doesn't give out enough juice for me to power the river, to charge the river using the 120-watt plug. And it doesn't put out enough juice on the 12-volt plug for it to accept it through the solar panel port, input port. But I've come up with a solution. I've had it all along, I just didn't want to use it, and that's to use the power cord, the 12-volt power cord that came with the EcoFlow river. Let's take a look at how that works. Okay, this is lots better. Now, we're doing something I didn't want to do. I wanted to keep that 130-watt inverter powering things while I'm driving. It does a great job of that for low voltage stuff, and can charge some things in a pinch. But this cable here, this cable here is one that I went and got. I found it. I've had this for a while. This is the 12-volt charging cable that comes with the EcoFlow river. It is plugged directly into the cigarette lighter in the dash, and I am getting 87 watts in. This thing will be fully charged in about two hours, depending on how much the Starlink is used. Right now it's flexing between 11 and 47 watts. Okay, that's Starlink doing its thing. But this will recharge before it discharges. It might be a little slow, but what that means is I can drive with this on. It won't go below 100%, except for maybe just a little teeny tiny skosh. And this cable here goes to the phone. So everything in the vehicle will be powered by this using pass-through power. Input from the engine, from the 12-volt cigarette lighter to the river, and the phone and the Starlink out from here. Then when we get to the campsite, we pull this out, we pull the Starlink out, we set it all up, and the solar panel will run the river. So I don't take any power away from the Delta, which means I can be doing all sorts of cooking and things like that. That I can recharge using the alternator charger that is on it. I would not use this while I'm recharging the Delta, because I don't want to overtax my alternator. So we have proof of concept. We know what we're doing. I'm going to go to lunch and see how much I can power this up. It's at 77% right now. Okay, now the other thing we're testing is the little table I installed. We'll show you that here in a little bit. But I have given a semi-permanent location for the camera. Let's see how well it works while we're driving. I can see the display on the river, and we're at about 78% right now. We're going to take a trip, get some lunch. Okay, we're back. We're back from lunch, and I'm looking down. We're still at the same level, at 78%. Okay, so you might say, but Sarge, you had 78% when you left. You had 78% when you got back. What did you gain? Well, you have to understand. First off, I drove to where I was going to have lunch, Taco Cabana, if you're interested. That was about 6 miles. And I stopped the car, went in, had lunch, was inside there for about a half an hour. Drove across the street to the Hobby Lobby, did some shopping for some shelving for the back of the big steel tent. We'll see that this weekend. And then I drove to the hardware store and went in there and did some shopping. And I went over to Michael's to check and see if they had something better than what I had found at Hobby Lobby. What I'm trying to tell you here is, out of the roughly 2 hours elapsed time on a 16-mile round trip, about half of that time was spent with the truck off. No power going to the river. But there was still power going out, okay, at a rate, an average of about 30 watts continuous into the Starlink Mini. The Mini was on the entire time. Okay, so coming back home at exactly the same amount of power meant that I ran that Mini for about 2 hours on zero power, on nothing. Okay, that also means that if I drove continuously for 2 hours, I would be, closer to 85%. And I think my average use will mean that, and this will have to be tested, will mean that I can wake up in the morning and start driving. The car will start charging the river. The Mini will be on all night long. And by the time I get to my next destination, the river will be completely recharged again. And in the meantime, I'll be running, powering the phone and the camera. And you can see I've got that camera on a little table. It's too dark to show it to you. I'll show it to you later. I think it's a pretty slick setup. I've got it set up so I can just unplug it from here and plug it into my my tripod for when I'm shooting outside. I am looking to get a camera from my rear view mirror. I've got some stuff that I'm gonna got back here that's kind of inhibiting my view to the rear from the camera, so I'm going to get a backup camera that also has a front-facing camera as well. But the budget is such that I can't get that until I sell one more 1920s lantern at Vico Expedition Outfitters. So if you want a lantern and you want to help the channel, well, go on over to Vico Expedition Outfitters and get one of those lanterns at $159 plus $15 shipping. And as soon as I get that money in, I'm going to go and I'm going to buy the Wolfbox G930 that I've been looking at, which is about $121. And I'll be able to record video on the trip, while on the trip, of where I'm driving to. Then I'll look at the camera and talk to y'all, and then we can see what's coming after us in the back end of the thing. So, like I said, go out and buy one of them lanterns. You'll help the channel a lot. We'll see you down the trail.